I started watching these 3 hours before the thing was done so that I could really think about them. But like I said, with Shaman King, my notes are really, really, really short. I came up with some deeper stuff for my hero, but like it was just good, fun episodes this time. I thought.
I agree. I look at the analytics. I don't think there's anything really to talk about from the analytics side, so I might be able to skip that. Holy
What?
Okay, I gotta share this with you on Discord. Shoot.
Sorry again to keep you waiting.
No problem. Do you see do you see this right here? Jeez, what
I
the
don't see
heck?
anything. I don't see anything on my screen yet.
You see that now?
Nope. What am I trying to see?
You don't see my desktop?
Nope.
Okay, maybe I'll just screenshot it then. I was trying to show it to you in real time, but I guess that wasn't happening. Those red areas, I think those are downloads, but I can't be for certain. But like that was not there before.
How many downloads is it?
I don't know. I don't know if those are downloads or not. I've been assuming that they are.
We're popular in Brazil, apparently.
Specifically over in Sao Bernardo de Campo, Rio de Janeiro. Hey, right, welcome to the next episode of Anime4All podcast. You just stumbled upon us looking at the analytics that I wasn't thinking of actually even bothering talking about. But the heat map for I guess where we're being heard from is ridiculous.
We have a
Um,
guest. We have a guest host today too. The
who?
crankiest, the crankiest, most tragic cat in the world, Zoe.
Oh,
She's molesting me right now. So you'll probably hear her because when she doesn't get her way, she screams. So you're probably going to hear her scream at some point.
man, we are being listened to all over like the right hand of South America. Literally, there are places in Brazil listening to us.
Maybe Shaman King's popular in Brazil.
Maybe there's a Brazilian shaman I don't know about yet. I guess we'll find out later on. Because that is a shock to me. Jeez, I was not expecting that. Okay, well that's all I really had to say about that. I mean, right here, the only thing different here is that in the last 30 days we have had a 196% surge in the last 30 days, so that's a thing. Oh, I guess as of July of 2021, we have had 109 downloads.
Solid.
So yeah, we're actually trending up now. We've been trending up ever since we started. I uploaded this. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. I guess we probably won't know our traffic until the end of August, but that's good.
I think our recent podcast episodes have been a little better than some of the previous ones, so I bet that doesn't hurt.
Okay, with that being said, we are here to talk about the not so current episodes of My Hero Academia and Shaman King because we took a break. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, fortunately, that break was kind of well timed because there was not a My Hero Academia episode this week. So we'll be catching up, but also it'd be like a smoother, I guess, episode to take. So we're gonna talk about My Hero Academia episode 106, Unforgiven. I got some notes here, as we both do. As discussed before. Essentially, I'm gonna just read off my notes here, and we're just gonna have a conversation like we normally do here. The episode pretty much begins with several years ago. I want to bring some attention to the way Endeavor looks here because Endeavor is. This is the initial. This is our initial view of Endeavor. His facial expressions, which I want to bring a huge attention to, are vastly different to what they are now. Um, I don't want to say that this is on purpose, mainly because it's showing that Endeavor has changed. Uh, so much so by the end of this episode, I'm actually shocked at how much he has changed, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I almost cried at the end of this episode. I literally almost cried. I never thought I'd cry in an Endeavor episode, but I am not ashamed to admit that I almost did cry. It was
Okay.
a very it was a very touching episode, something that I was not expecting. Uh, I guess like the several years ago at the very episode, the very beginning of this particular episode is a little bit more. It's interesting because it shows like it's already clear that All Might Endeavor never liked being compared to All Might, but it seems here for the reason he's probably at the edge, at the almost at the end of the rope before he ends up becoming number one here, and he seems to he seems to really hate the public in terms of like they never say this. He always assumes that people are comparing him to All Might, saying that he's faster at doing this or that. He's very upset by this. Very much so. Uh, I don't know. I mean, I guess it shows how insecure he was at this time in his like pro hero life. I don't really know what he had to say about it.
I think I don't think he was insecure so much. Like he knew he was the number two hero, and I don't know if it was so much about All Might so much as him being the type that pushes his limits and is kind of like prone to making the less fortunate decisions about his life. Like he seems like he goes not in necessarily incorrect direction, but like the most painful possible solution is the one he adopts. Like, I've let my family down, so I'm going to shun myself, or you know what I mean? I'm the number two hero, so I'm going to act super arrogant and push everybody away and never let it get any. I'm in pain, so I'm never going to let anyone get close to me, stuff like that. Like, it just seems like he's not very good at, like, solving his problems in the most productive possible way.
We'll get to
He
that
takes
actually.
on
We'll get to that in a minute. We're not going to talk about that particular problem well solution
no,
you're talking about. We're going to
he
mention
just
that at
takes
the
on a lot
end.
of like he just takes on a lot of unnecessary burdens. Like he's like, he's fiercely
Well, some of these
competitive.
problems some of these burdens I mean, kind of put it himself. I understand you're talking about. There's definitely probably better ways if you just let other people in and help him solve them. But
Right.
I think in his mind, he's done more damage. There's just no point in him trying to do anything because it's probably going to cause more harm than good emotionally. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that portion of the episode later. Um, I guess with that whole concept until we go to the flashback only because we come back to the present time, and we see mysterious villain uh in the background stalking Endeavor in his house. Uh, we get to the whole that Endeavor attracts the weirdest people, and it kind of shows here because he's got a villain fanboy over him. Uh, he apparently has Trigger, and I was watching videos of other people like talk about the episode, and I didn't notice this, but apparently the Trigger that he has might be an older model. Because they're saying it was in a red vial, and I think the other triggers that we saw recently were in blue. I don't know that really if that's true or not. I should have gone back to actually confirm that, but a lot of people are bringing up that does it looks like an old version of the boosting drug that they had in the past, which I
Yeah.
guess kind of is interesting because he doesn't lose control. It just seems to boost his quirk like that knife dude that shift dude did to his quirk. So
Right.
he does that's essentially what it does for him there. Uh, I have here he like he doesn't kidnap Natsu here. He kidnaps him later on, but it's like we see like the after events of everything happened at the Todoroki house dinner, which was I still say really unfortunate, especially with Endeavor's whole like he wants to atone for everything, and but he doesn't know how the best way to do it. He feels like his presence is just gonna make things worse, and I guess in a weird way he's not wrong, but he's trying to figure out a way. I guess right now trying to figure out a way to fix the problems that he's caused, but also being there. But he's also having a hard time dealing with that. As we see as we jump from here to the villain that's stalking Endeavor kidnaps his son and pretty much jumps him as he's taking the gang home. Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki, well, Shoto, home. They pretty much get jumped in the middle of the road as Endeavor's chauffeur is driving them to the school. Um, you see Endeavor's facial expressions here, which are very pronounced. He sees his son in danger and immediately jumps out of the car, burns away all his clothes, revealing that he was wearing his uniform under there.
Okay.
Uh, I just think the almost immediate reaction here. Endeavor has never shown crazy concern for much of people. I mean, he's usually always like what's the word I'm looking for? Dang it. I don't think it's brooding, but I guess
Self-absorbed.
the brooding is the closest thing you could say to what Endeavor's facial expressions normally are.
Can you just call it self-absorbed?
I'm just gonna call it brooding, but
What?
I'm just gonna call it brooding. But Prince jumps from there. Essentially, this entire situation is like Endeavor's son is in trouble, Natsu is in trouble, and ending is what the guy's name is. Funny because he wants Endeavor to kill him,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which is very very over the top. That went from 0 to 100 real quickly. Uh, I wasn't expecting a villain to just come out of nowhere and ask to be killed, but I guess it really shows the effect that Endeavor's had on people, being
Is
number
it
one.
really that unusual to think that? I mean, didn't Stain have a very similar opinion about All Might? That All Might was the only one worthy to defeat him.
Yeah, defeat him, put him in jail, that not kill him.
I know, but that idea of you're the only one worthy of, like, you know what I mean? That I'm going to gain satisfaction from like you doing something to me that like is pretty much to my detriment. You know?
I don't think Stain was like near gonna have an orgasm if you were beaten by All Might. I could be wrong. I don't know what this man does on his daily life. I would just say that this man was like he he had like I've seen fanboying, but he turned it up to like 20. It was ridiculous. It kind of creeped me out. I mean, besides that alone, like this, you see Endeavor for the first time since we've seen him since whatever episode he first appeared in, him actually struggling to save his own son because he starts having these flashbacks of Natsu,
Now
pretty
let's
much.
back up for a second. I mean, we have seen a long litany of characters that like in this series that are specifically obsessed with um that are specifically obsessed with a, like a particular foe, like a good like a particular hero. Like we've seen many like we've seen even All for One could be argued as like kind of obsessed about a specific foe, wouldn't you say?
I think it's more obsessed with the quirk that he gave out that's caused so many problems for him. But sure,
Um, what do you mean?
he's the one that gave out the original beginning of All for One for All, and it's made a foe that he's obsessed with. But I say he's more obsessed with the quirk than he's probably obsessed with the person. But I mean, All Might's a definitely different story because he seems to be more obsessed with him specifically. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the same thing can be said. I mean, well, I guess what was the point you're trying to make?
I just think that like this is just another example. Like one of them saying like All Might's the only one that's good enough to defeat me, and other people saying like my specific foe is All Might, my specific foe is Endeavor, like, and that's the person I'm going to go after, like, in particular. It doesn't seem to be all that unusual for someone to like pick a specific rival and go after.
I'm not saying that that's unusual. I'm just saying that I've never like usually when that happens, the person that they're after is never trying to get killed by them. This man was literally trying to get Endeavor to kill him. Even when I was ready to say kill me.
Yeah,
Cross that line. That makes you a hero. No villain at this point or uh, antagonist has ever gone out of their way to try to get killed. You can make the argument Stain probably did, but I don't think Stain wanted to be killed. I think he just wanted he wanted to be captured by All Might. He wanted to prove to the world that All Might's a true hero, and he did so by being the one villain that All Might would have to get involved with to stop. Unfortunately for him, Deck got involved, and All Might never had to get near him. But still, he wasn't out there trying to get killed by him.
right.
And I'm saying this is an extreme example of that situation. I'm not saying it's unusual. You want to use real world examples from comics. Joker is an example of a villain obsessed with a hero. Lex Luthor is the same thing. Reverse Flash is the same thing. Sinestro from the Green Lantern series is the same thing. There are a lot of villains out there who are obsessed with a hero, but they're never trying to get killed by them. My thing always just focusing on the fact that he wanted to die. And that was basically what I was focusing on. He just wanted to die, and it was a very disturbing situation because he was so happy that entire confrontation to the point where you can make an argument that he probably made a mess in his pants. And I understand it was very disturbing imagery.
Hmm. Yeah, okay, then I could see that. So, I mean, what I think is really like you're touching upon here is like the bigger theme that follows this series through all the way. Like the series in general is like constantly exploring what it means to be a hero. Like, so, you go back to Stain, for example, and like Stain building his fanaticism that really catched on among villains and people that I would consider neutrals, like Spinner, for example, that you don't there's a lot of ambiguity about what makes a hero, like, you know what I mean, the way they sacrifice and things like that. And so far, like right up until this episode, I'd say that like the hero in question that's making the sacrifice had a sacrifice that they were fully willing to make, even though it was a sacrifice, even though it was a loss of some kind. It was always a sacrifice that like if they had already thought about it and been willing to make it, like whether it was physical strain or injury or pain or bodily damage, even permanent, or giving up their powers or something like that. Like the idea like was that these were all things they came to the set like excited about, like being ready to like sacrifice. They're like, yeah, I'm absolutely like ready to let this go. But in this case, Endeavor, who's built his entire life around his like heroic ambition, like not necessarily about being heroic, although you're starting to see that he is heroic too, like deep down. Like the idea of being heroic, like he took his family and turned it into like a way to churn out a successor, and you know what I mean. And he took All Might as a way to like chase after it. And then once he like became the number one hero, he was constantly trying to like take on the role of All Might, which was like an almost impossible like ideal to chase after. Really, it was almost impossible for All Might himself, and so on. You know what I mean? But like here he is suddenly like having to make a lot of like big decisions for himself that none of the other heroes have had to make. Like, do you value being a hero more than you value your family? Like, are you going to do the heroic thing to the point where like your son dies? Do you value the idea of being a hero more than you value the means to an end? Like, in this case, it's so easy, just kill him, and like that's the means to the end. The guy's dead, everybody's better off for it for the most part. But the idea of being a hero, like, you'll do something that like it means to the end is to like for everybody's benefit, but it doesn't fit your ideal, like what you think is a hero, so you won't be able to think you're a hero anymore. And then there's the challenge of like the standards are different from now than they were a few years ago. Like he is the symbol of heroism as well as as the number one hero, as well as like being his own hero. So he has to think, is like being the symbol of being a hero, is it compromising his identity? Like is it forcing him into a box that like is making him weaker or not as effective as a hero as he might have been? Like there might have been a time where he did kill the guy like this. And is it similarly, is it compromising his ability to do heroic things? Or the thing that's right, like Batman versus Superman, Batman doing the thing that is right but not necessarily heroic, versus Superman always like doing the heroic thing even if like it means great
I,
tragedy
I,
for
I
everybody
want I want to
involved.
fight for the possibility. I don't think there would have been a point that Endeavor would have done this because Endeavor had encountered that villain before, and his goal was the same back then as it was now. It was to get killed by Endeavor.
You can say that, but like at the same time, like that guy wasn't on drugs last time. you know
I mean, I guess, but I still feel like even though because we saw the Endeavor from several years ago, and that was a mean, you know, guy, but like he still was supposed to be a hero. He was number two.
Hey,
Um,
Brendan.
I don't. What the heck
Go
was
ahead.
that?
Just a couple seconds of sound in my computer. Sorry. Go
What's that?
ahead.
No, okay, but I still feel like he would even back then, even if it crossed his mind that he was gonna do it, I'm almost certain that well, not almost certain. I want to believe that he wouldn't have lit him on fire, but then again, I don't know because we don't know that man. The only man we know of is the Endeavor we see now, because we didn't follow that Endeavor around, so we don't know what he was doing. But from the way things were stated around him back then, it didn't seem like he killed people. It seemed like he mostly, for the most part, put people in jail. I mean, he made a name for himself, but for being able to put so many people in jail at once at the same time. I mean, it wasn't
We
like All Might
we know that he's
intensity,
capable. We
but
know that he's capable of killing a Nomu.
so is well. I'm about to say so is All Might, but no, that's not true.
No, he burned Nomus into crisps to counter their regeneration.
But that was the only way to stop those new moves, though, because they were brainless zombies.
Well, as far as Endeavor's concerned, the only way he had it as means to stop this situation was to kill that guy. And he got bailed out by the hero, like the Class A kids, like, exceeding his expectations. But like, as far as he knew, that was going to be his way to handle this, would have been to kill him.
Well, I mean, well, with this guy, I don't really know what was going through his mind because we saw as he was about to go and get his son, he stopped and froze, having remembered what his son said to him before. And at the time, you couldn't tell if it had any real effect on him, but you can definitely see it had a lot of effect on him here, which is kind of odd that it affected him here now. But as I say this, I was watching other people like watch this episode over again because I was watching them watch it to see what they had to say, and a lot of people brought up an interesting point that like what happened here is that Endeavor realized that or knew he didn't have the right to save his son because all saving him would do was force a thank you, and that in a really weird way would make it seem like Natsu forgave him and everything that he did in the past would have been all right. In reality, that wouldn't have been right. He, in a really weird and unfortunate way, as you said before at the very beginning of this episode, of this review, that Endeavor has taken a lot of burdens on unnecessary ones at that. So much to the point that, he's kind of condemned himself to the solitary life. In
Mm-hmm.
here, it's done the exact same thing. It's ostracized him from his own family, and the odd thing is, he did it to himself by separating himself from them because even though they want nothing to do with him, it's not like they told him to get out of the house. They were living with the man since their mother was in the hospital and their older brother died. Uh, by the way, I wanted to confirm. I wanted to say this because I had to look this up. It wasn't a spoiler because I just wanted to know where in the world Toya fit in the hierarchy. Toya was Endeavor's first son. he's older than Fuyumi. He was the
Okay.
first kid they had. Not a spoiler. I just wanted to know where he fit in the thing, but so I need the confirmation about that too. But here he didn't. He felt like in his mind he didn't deserve to save his son because all it was gonna do is probably make him hate him even more because you saved me. Now I have to thank you. In Endeavor has stated that he really wants he doesn't want his family to forgive him. He wants to atone for everything he did, but he doesn't know what to do at this point. He doesn't know what to do. So to the point where he freezes, and it causes Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto to jump out of the car and go in there to help him out. Which, funnily enough, I'm going to talk about this now because it's not that it's not that important, but this does count as the mission that Endeavor said to catch a villain before I do, and you pass. I realized that as it was happening. I was watching it for the first time. I was like, "Is this going to be the mission that they do? They get for the first they get before Endeavor?" But
At the same time, it was sort of a cheap shot, wasn't it?
well, I mean, of course it was. Endeavor had a panic attack. I mean, I'm pretty sure if it wasn't for that, Endeavor could have gotten in there and taken him out really easily. But I mean, whatever.
I
Because
mean,
also I want to
even
get
a
that out of the
panic
way
attack is
because it
like
doesn't
sort of
really matter.
even a panic attack is kind of like an exaggeration. It's more like he hesitated for a fraction of a second, you know?
I don't even for a fraction of a second. I think he feel like he panicked still because I mean, this man literally sat there going through his mind about what his son said earlier in that day.
Yeah.
He could have easily he could have easily dealt with it after the fact, but he decided to deal with it then. But but yeah, I mean that happens. I guess an important thing too, as this is happening, is they go in there to save him. Bakugo ends up saving Natsuo using what he learned from Endeavor, which is to concentrate his firepower and output the maximum amount at any time. So he used it to volley himself into saving Natsu because Natsu was getting thrown into traffic. Which, by the way, this entire fight was happening on the street at night. It's amazing nobody died. But speaking of that, the ending ends up tossing a lot like three cars into the air. It starts threatening lives of Innocent people. Deku ends up saving them all by well, actually early on before I get to this point, he uses Deku uses what he learned from Endeavor by learning to use Air Force uh, without thinking, which I guess he did without thinking. I had no idea here, but using Air Force without thinking, then in turn allows him to use Black Whip in midair to save all the bystanders, which is amazing. I was not expecting Deku to be able to use Black Whip by this point, but I guess with progression of the story, it makes sense. Which means that, in my opinion, the next thing is we're gonna probably see another quirk emerge. Uh, that's my suspicion. That we're probably gonna see his next quirk emerge at some point.
I
Not that
think so
he's.
too, but honestly, Black Whip seemed not very earned with the fact that he got it in like a week. I wasn't a big fan of how like quickly he learned it.
But Deku's gotta learn like five or six more quirks before the
That's
end of the series.
that's the plot's problem, not like our problem. Like I think that he I think that he was given this too fast.
I don't know, cause I mean, if you really think about it, back earlier on, Deku was able to make Black Whip come out of his knuckle. I mean, it wasn't a lot, but he was able to force it out. I think this is just natural progression to me. I mean, you think different, obviously, but I think for me, this is like natural progression.
But we didn't see it. It was like it's like when they criticized Dragon Ball Z for like doing everything off camera. Like she just he just kind of like picked it up off screen, like, and it was just like, oh, okay, I guess we have this now.
I mean, so
And
did Bakugo's condensed explosion burst and Todoroki's ability to precision flame and ice.
right, it's neat. It's neat that like I mean, Bakugo like precision with your ice is one thing because that like was something like I'd been wondering like even before they brought it up. Remember, I was like, what is this? Like, why haven't we done this yet? I get that a little bit, but like what I don't get here is And like I said, Bakugo, like getting a little speed. Like it was a little bit faster, but it still made sense. You know, he's been grinding at it. Like we've been watching him fight and fight and fight every day to build it up. Endeavor's been pushing him. Getting a little bit better at your existing quirk is not crazy to me. Like I'm okay with getting a little bit better at your existing quirk. Like I didn't need to see
I mean, this is an
Bakugo.
existing quirk too.
This is his first introduction to this quirk, as opposed
No, that
to
happened earlier.
no. This is like pretty much his first. Last time we heard, he couldn't use it. You know, where he said, "I can
I'm
just
talking
do this."
before that, when it came out, that was his first introduction to the quirk. When he had that very long tutorial with that dude with the big chin, big jawline.
You're kind of being technical, pulling a technicality on me right now. Like for the most part, functionally speaking, his bigger thing was that he, like last we heard, he could make a little tiny finger-sized flame come out. He said that's all I could do. According to what Endeavor said in here, like a week goes by. Like he's like, I can't believe these people improve so well much in a week. And you know what? I can't really either. You know what I mean? I just don't buy it. Like that they went from like making a little tiny finger-sized thing all the way up to being able to like control huge three tendrils at once, catch cars with them, and put them down safely without like a problem.
I mean,
It's too
Deku
much.
did this. I mean, sorry. I'm sorry. I understand where you come from, but he did this before when he fought Sensui, when he grabbed the giant concrete pillars, and that was after he had first lost control of that quirk.
That was like it's still too much of a. I hear what you're saying. It's still too much of a jump for me to see like going from A to B the way he did. It's too much, in my
I mean,
opinion.
as I said before, I wasn't expecting him. I said I fully admit I was not expecting Deku. I was half expecting him to get that control of that quirk in the second arc, because I was trying to figure out how they were going to unlock these quirks and what made sense. After seeing what Deku did here, that tells me that the next quirk is coming, because like he's already quote unquote mastered it. Now he's probably still got learning to do with it. Cause like another thing too is like I would agree with you if this quirk was an attack ability, but it isn't. It was just an ability that for him to capture things with. I could honestly buy that if it was just used for capturing. Now he attacked with it, it would be a different story. And then at the moment he tossed a villain into the building, I would have been confused because I was like, how did he manage to put all the tenders around him and then lift it when he couldn't even, when all he could do was block with it before? It was like I could believe that, but the quirk isn't an attack ability. It's just something to allow his mobility out for more mobility. Like that's pretty much where I am at with it. Is like as long as it wasn't used to attack, I don't really have too much of a problem with it. And at the end of the day, these internships aren't supposed to last for long. So even if we did go through the entire like, if you had been there for an entire month, um, it's just like I don't really know what to say towards that. I mean, I understand a lot of it is a plot problem. The only other way to solve it is that Deku just doesn't get new abilities. This is the only way to really solve it is that he gets Black Whip and that's it. Um, and I guess I'd be fine with that. But at the same time, when you tell me there's like 6 other abilities inside this quirk, I want to see them. And there's no realistic way to have Deku tackle this without him, having a week of training and then immediately tapping into it. I mean, Goku has this thing where he just sees an ability and immediately uses it. No training involved at all. The only training he's ever had is like uh, before the Kamehameha when he gets trained with Master Roshi, and he picked that pretty easily because he just wasn't human. Uh, then he learned Super Saiyan, but that wasn't training. That was just an emotional point in his life when he turned Super Saiyan. He trained to get to Ultra Super
You
Saiyan.
know,
He
Super
trained to get,
Saiyan, you saw him train the entire way up.
but that wasn't training for Super Saiyan. That was just training to get his body to strong enough to deal with Frieza. And when it wasn't enough, he had an emotional impact moment when his best friend died in front of him, which was the last push that he needed to achieve the transformation. Uh,
Right, but I
he
mean
he
that
tra-
that build up I've totally followed. They talked about like the Super Saiyan thing for like a whole
But
saga and
but
how it was
nobody knew
cut.
what a Super Saiyan was supposed to be. There was no
They
way
didn't.
that he was
They
going.
didn't know what it was supposed to be, and the fact that he turns into the Super Saiyan, and you're like, that's the answer. Like, because before that, they're like, is this Super Saiyan? Is this Super Saiyan? Am I finally Super Saiyan now? And then you see Goku like kind of glow white at one point, and you're like, oh, he glowed white. Maybe that's the Super Saiyan thing. And then when he actually turns Super Saiyan, you're like, no, that's definitely Super Saiyan. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, they don't even need to say it at that point. It's just the whole audience, like, yes, that's exactly Super Saiyan. And that was like the really cool thing about it. But like when but you see him building up, you see everybody working towards it, and you see him like, and it's the culmination of the whole series, like all the way through Dragon Ball when he's learning energy manipulation and everything. It's the whole series and him bursting out in rage, and like, and even when he gets it, like he's fighting to control it and not lose himself in it and everything else, and it's just like great. Compare that to like the huge criticisms in Dragon Ball Super when Caulifla is like, I got a little tingle in my back. I'm a Super Saiyan, hee hee, and like everybody's like bullshit, and then like she turns into a Super Saiyan too, and it's like extra bullshit, and it cheapened like what even like some of the previous stuff where like Gohan fought so hard,
I
to
mean,
become a Super Saiyan
here's the
too.
thing, and people like. I mean, I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this, but the people who are upset about like, I'm not the biggest fan of Kefla. I'm not the biggest fan of Khalifa. I'm not the biggest fan of
I
what's her
like
name,
them. I just
Kale.
don't like. I
But
like them. I don't. I like the characters. I like the potential of the characters. I don't like what they did with the character. I feel like it's not the character's fault. Like I like the characters. I just don't like.
what I was about to say is, I feel like that. I honestly, I could actually believe that, even if it upsets me, I can believe it because it's like, like the whole like the master training the protege, and like nobody knew what a Super Saiyan was, and all they needed to do was be told what it was to look out for, because like nobody knew what the heck was supposed to be. I mean, the Saiyans of that universe didn't even have tails. The Prince evolved without them, which is kind of odd. So they never had a Zoro attack either, which is funny. But it's just one of those things. Like, I feel like that's believable in the sense, like, yeah, it cheapens it. Yeah, you can. I agree, it cheapens it. But like, you can't argue with the fact that they asked what were they supposed to look out for, and Goku told them a tingle on their back, or who was it told them tingle? It might have been Goku, but someone told them it was a tingle on their back, and they looked out for the tingle on their back, and they used that to push to the next level. Yeah, it's not really the character's fault because they kind of got introduced, and this is where they want to go with them. But it's like, I think people are gonna getting upset over nothing, mainly because truth, what I saw was that people were just upset that Goku was getting wailed on by a female Saiyan, and they were upset by this. Well, not female Saiyan, but he was just getting beat by Saiyans he shouldn't gotten beat by. I think that's really what it really comes down to. Is like people were upset about the power scaling. I mean, yeah, you can argue with the power scaling. It's all over the freaking place. But like, when you got somebody, when you introduce characters this late in the game, you're gonna have problems regardless. Like, I feel like if they were gonna talk about universes like this, they should have introduced them, like, I would say after the Super Saiyan thing came in. Like, we should have been universe hopping before we got to the Cell Saga. If if you really want my honest opinion about where we should have had the universe hopping, I think that would have been a perfect time to introduce other universes. Because then we could have had Khalifa come in and go Super Saiyan, and it wouldn't matter because we still don't understand the true nature of the Super Saiyan, and we don't know you can push it further. Yeah, that's just me. I mean, back to My Hero Academia because we talked about was really on a tangent there, but I was expecting him to learn Black Whip. I'm pretty sure he still got more learning to do with that. I understand where he's coming from. It kind of seems fast, but at the same time, he's got 5 or 6 more quirks. There's gonna be a he's gonna do some things that people are not gonna like.
Right.
You don't have to agree with it. You can like, you just kind of get to sit there and say meh. Is
I
the best way
just
to.
I just would have liked. I like the story of Deku growing, and that's like the idea of this whole theme, like the driving force of this whole thing. My Hero Academia is them growing and learning, and that's the whole story. So to have him make a jump that we didn't get to watch and his abilities that quickly with something that radical, like learning a new like when he learned, you can kind of point to almost any ability that he has with One for All and know kind of like how he learned it. You watched him learn speed from Gran Torino. You know what I mean? Like the other characters, you've watched them learn hand to hand combat from like whatever gunmetal or whatever, and like you can kind of see like all like the evolution of their heroic philosophy, the evolution of like their stuff. But in this case, he just kind of like he just like this huge thing. It seemed like a huge struggle. He's like, I can kind of do this with it. I can make a little tiny fling out of it, and it seems overwhelming. And he's like, well, just learn how to do it without trying. And a week later, he's like, aha, I'm catching cars. I can control three of these at the same time. Like I can semi fly with it, and like I can walk around on it, and I can do anything basically. And afterwards, I'm gonna look fine. Like I'm gonna be like bashful and be like, oh shucks, I'm glad I was able to save you. And it's just like I wanted to be there for the journey. I wanted to be there for the journey in the same way that I saw him train all summer long to get his body fit enough to like be able to throw a punch and break his arm. You know what I mean? And then learn how to not throw a punch and break his arm, and then learn how to kick and everything else he did with his other abilities. I wanted to learn. I wanted to see a little more journey in this. I know he's got a lot to do. The show didn't have to put themselves in the situation where he has so many quirks to learn at once. But now that it has, I wanted to see him like maybe get like a mentor that has a similar power, or like and takes them under their wing for a little bit, or like maybe he has one tendril right now, or maybe he gets the three but it's a huge struggle and he's like, oh, I've got to hold, get over this. And you see him like struggling to not drop the cars or something as he's getting to the bottom because it was like out of his comfort zone to do so much with it, but like he was going to push himself plus ultra, you know what I mean, to be able to use the ability. But we didn't see any of that. It was just a breeze for him, and it was too much of growth in a week. I think that most people would agree with that.
I mean, I can see it coming from, but at the same time, I mean, I understand a piece like, I mean, everybody else probably. I mean, yeah, I'll be the one in the corner that nobody bullies. But I honestly could sit there and believe that this is possible because all it was just a grapple hook. Does that you shouldn't it shouldn't take you too long to learn how to throw a hook and get it latched onto a tree or whatever. And that just like that seems simple enough. I don't think this is a complicated enough of an ability where a weak jump is too much to truly believe.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I understand you're coming from like, watching the grow, but at the same time, this quirk manifests out of nowhere. I would honestly sit there and say I would be on your side there, but I would only have to, for me to be there where you're at right now, I would have to have seen like peaks of it throughout the series that for whatever reason just pops up for no reason, and it just shows up and disappears, and we don't know what the heck was that, and we don't know what it was, and then we find out what it was, and then the jump happens. It's like, wait a minute, we didn't even know this was a part of his ability to begin with. How like where is it coming from? I feel like he did enough. I feel like the creator did enough here, in my opinion. I feel like he did enough here to say that he's got a grapple hook now. This is where I want him to be right now. I don't want him to be stuck trying to learn this grapple hook for too long because I've already spent too long as it is. I know where the series is going to end. I'm already probably by this point for this part of this point in the story halfway there, and I need to boost him to get to a point where he can fight somebody like All for One if that is going to be the ultimate fight he's going to be going against. Some people believe Shigaraki. I'm in that camp, but I still don't know because we haven't seen Shigaraki at all since season 2. No, season 3. I forgot, but we haven't seen him for a while now. Actually, for an entire season. But this is one of those things like I don't I it's a grapple hook. Now whatever he gets next, that might take him a little bit of time. I had no idea. He might not even get all the quirks either. That's the other thing too. He might not even get them all. Because it seems kind of weird how Black Wolf kind of just manifested. We don't even know what triggered it. All we know is that he was thinking about capturing Monoma, and it just unlocked. Speaking of the whole unlocking mechanism, the only reason Deku couldn't use it before because he locked it himself. So something tells me he probably managed to find a way to unlock it. Because even All Might said before he went to train with Endeavor that as long as you're able to, control that locking and unlocking mechanism, you'd be fine.
Hmm.
So I feel like this is perfectly fine. Could we use a little more build up? Sure. But like based on the way how this arc ended, with this being the episode that ends this arc, this arc was gonna probably be too long anyway because they were just prepping for what's gonna be, I'm guessing, the Todoroki family shindig, because they're putting a lot of effort into like preparing us for what's coming next. Was
What's
it quick?
coming?
Yeah, but I mean, I can take it. I mean, I accept it. I'm not
What's
that upset by it. Hmm?
what's coming next that they're preparing us for?
All this Todoroki family business, for crying out loud. I mean, for crying out loud, this episode they even say that Ray, the mother of all the children, is coming out of the hospital soon. I feel like because we're getting all this information, we got a picture of Toya. There is no way they're not gonna continue with that. That story thread is like it's gonna get resolved, and I feel like it's gonna get resolved soon, or it's gonna start unraveling real soon. There's no way because they're spending too much time. Spending too much time like laying the breadcrumbs. We found out that their son is dead, or at least they think he's dead. Um, Natsu has a
This
problem with the father. Like, just all
this
kinds
is
of stuff
going to be
happening.
a silly question, but have they straight out said that he's dead?
I believe Endeavor has said that he killed him, or he takes responsibility for killing him.
Okay, I'm just curious.
At least the things that they're said. I mean, even like Natsu says, "I blame you for the death of my older brother."
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Now, I mean, you could take that anyway. You could say like he thinks in his own mind he's dead. I understand where you're coming from, but like just because they believe he's dead doesn't mean he's actually dead. Like the rule of any fiction is that unless they die on camera, they didn't die. So wherever he is, I mean, you know, non-scarred face with black hair or not, Davi. Oops, sorry. Uh, Pretty much after the Black Whip stuff, they capture Shoto captures ending with fire first, and then captures ice. Bakugo saves Natsu, and then Deku uses the Black Whip really quickly. And pretty much we have this little conversation between Endeavor and Natsu, which, funnily enough, they're having this conversation in the middle of the road, where their car is trying to, I presume, go home. You see a person honking, saying, "Hey, get out of the road!" Kind of lifting the tension there a little bit. Essentially, like we have Endeavor telling his son that he was afraid of losing him. He also felt like if he got involved and saved him, he wouldn't talk to him ever again. And I'm in my mind like he wasn't talking to you to begin with. The only thing he was ever saying to you is "I hate you." I mean, I understand he's coming from that situation, but at the same time, it's like he's already not talking to you. The worst that could happen is that he just closes his door and that's it. But I mean, I understand he's trying to make amends. He also mentions that like he doesn't want forgiveness. He said this over and over again, but he makes it quite evident here that he doesn't want forgiveness. Um, which is
Right, which is
interesting in my opinion, because like, why are you trying to atone? But hey,
it's like it goes back to the idea of just like making the most unfortunate decision for himself possible. It's just like,
well,
completely ruling out forgiveness even as a possibility. He's just like, we're gonna go straight to the tragic thing. I work to atone this and try to forgive myself. Let's get you a house so you literally terrible. You know.
I mean, well, there's no like we've already explored that Natsuo really doesn't really want to forgive his father. Shoto is on the fence right now with his father. Fumi is trying her best to forgive him, but she's nowhere there. She's nowhere there either. And I'm pretty sure Ray is probably traumatized right now. He probably doesn't want to put her through any of that. That house that they're in right now is a bunch of bad memories.
Yeah, I get
Again,
that.
a bad decision on his part because he's gonna be stuck through all those bad memories. He's gonna probably nearly kill himself.
Right,
Um,
he's going to torture himself instead of like try to do something productive.
I don't think he believes he deserves it though. I mean, based on everything that we're seeing here, I don't think he believes he deserves it. And I don't know if I want to. If I don't know if I want to sit there and say that he deserves to be forgiven either. But I like for him to move on and maybe try to fix the problems. But at the same time, when the people that you try to fix the problems with aren't even trying to meet you halfway, what else can you do? Like legitimately, what else can you do? Like I
Not
mean,
everybody not
hmm?
everybody there is not trying to meet him halfway. Like he's made some progress with Todoroki. He's definitely got the sister like working on it. The other guy like wasn't without progress. Like you can see that he's being touched by the situation, even if his words are consistent with it. Todoroki's words weren't consistent with it, and he didn't give up on him. And then Todoroki started coming around a little bit. I think
Yeah, but
that
he's kind of like, but even with that, Shoto is like, pushed him to the side. Natsuo keeps running away whenever there is any significant progress in the situation. I'm not saying he doesn't have the right to be angry, but at the same time, it's like when the man that is who realizes that he's messed up, he's the worst, he's the scum of the earth, and he's trying to fix it, and all you're doing is sitting there saying, every time I look at your face, I just see everything bad you've done. Like, what can you do at that point? Like, you realize that, okay, looking at me is horrible. I can't change my face.
he said some cruel things, but Todoroki said some pretty brutal things too. I just don't. It's the easy way out in the sense that he's kind of giving up rather than like and taking the
I
painful
I mean
choice
the
as a
thing is I don't see him getting them a new house as a way to give up. Him giving up, I think in his mind this is the best he can do. Until they're ready to be able to be in the same room with him, the best thing he can do is just remove himself from the situation at all. If he is the problem, removing himself from it is the best thing he can do. Until they're ready to come to terms with everything that's happened to them.
He doesn't say that though. He just says, "Well, I'm gonna sit here and live alone in this house. I'll get you a house near your mother so that you guys can move in together. I'm not gonna particularly do anything to try to like be close to her or anything. Like I'm just gonna live here and be a pariah in my own."
I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I do. But at the same time, everything in the family is just telling me it ain't gonna happen. They've already. I mean, yeah, Fuyumi is trying her best, but she's even said that she she's having a hard time. Like she feels the same way that Natsuo does. The only main reason why she's trying to do this is because her mother's trying to come back in their lives. But now, I mean, yeah, he's taking the decision out of their hands, but at the same time, it's like all they're gonna do is just constantly beat themselves over a wall they were never gonna cross. He
Does
was
he
gonna be
literally?
over there with his hand outstretched, but they were never gonna reach out to it to like at least work on trying to forgive him.
Does he literally follow that sentence up with "boo-hoo," or am I just remembering that incorrectly?
Now you're remembering it incorrectly.
I'm just gonna live alone in my own house. Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo.
Okay, okay. My question is for you. How do you think he should have approached this? Like,
Um,
what could have made it so that they at least would have tried to work on trying to forgive him versus them sitting there? Because you're talking about Boohoo on his side. Listen to Natsu. You killed my older brother. I'm never gonna forgive you for that. Even though it's been 10 years since he's probably been gone. I'm not that scarred by it. I mean, he didn't
bide,
say that, but I'm almost sitting there saying he can't be that scarred by it. There is no way he could be that scarred by it.
bide your time a little bit. Meet with the sister and say, "What can I be doing differently to help? Like, how can I
I
work
think
with
he
you?"
has. Fuyumi's been in the background there being his cheerleader.
He's been saying that you've been doing all the work and I haven't done any work so far. And instead of finding out what she thinks is a good idea, he's like, "So therefore, I'm going to like ostracize myself for the rest of my life," as opposed to like, I don't know, finding out what she thinks is the best way to solve the problem.
I find it funny the man who wanted to put a different on a spit or 3 seasons earlier is trying to fix the relationship that he screwed up.
Yeah, he screwed it up. But I mean, he could have checked with her and said, "Do you have a better idea? I'm clearly not very good at this."
I don't think she would have had a better idea, because she'd been trying to put them in a room like several times and it's never worked because Natsu is the one that gets up.
Because
It's
that's
not like
all
Endeavor
she
gets up
had
and
as an
leaves. It's
option.
Natsu.
That's all she had as an option. But if he was like, what can I be doing to help you? That might have been a possibility. But he's just like, nope. I'm just gonna jump in and say, well, you've been trying things, they don't work, so I'm gonna try things and they're not gonna work because my solution is isolating myself from everybody. It'll solve your problems. It's not gonna solve any fucking problems for me. Pardon my French.
I, I feel like I mean you say that this is selfish. I think this is selfless because like he's not trying to he's not trying like I said before he's been a whole this not forgiveness kick, and they've
It's
already
the
said that they don't want to forgive him, and
it's
he's
the
already said he's fine with that. Now is that a
it's
wrong way to take that? Then I have no idea.
it's the easy, selfless way to do it.
But they don't want to forgive him. They've already made this. They made this obvious. I mean, the only person who probably wants to forgive him and is trying to work towards it is Shoto. But it's easier for him because he spent most of his childhood with him. Like the other kids didn't. Like I mean, for crying out loud, anytime like every time that they probably could have had to spend a good family picnic together, Endeavor was over there beating his son senseless. Sorry. But it's just, like I'm just like I mean, it's not literally, but he's like even over there drilling him with training instructions the entire time, turning his son to a robot,
Mhm.
therefore hurting him, scarring him for life. He's already past the scar and he's working towards it. Like, I mean, Deku said that I think you're just waiting to forgive him. But it's like when you have other characters, like he's concerned about the family as a whole versus just one person. He's already sees that he screwed up his Natsu, he screwed up his daughter, he screwed up his older son by pretty much putting him in a coffin. Like I mean, and his wife's in the hospital. This is all. There's nothing. There's not enough Hakuna Matata in the world to fix this.
But it's a wonderful thing.
It's a wonderful phrase, but still, there's not enough in the world to fix this problem.
I think
There
I
isn't.
think generally biding your time is not a bad idea.
Yeah, he could have. I mean, he's definitely working on that. I mean, it seems like he's still waiting. He said he's not. It's not like he's not going to accept the forgiveness but he isn't gonna make it something that that they have to do. I mean, I feel like him not. I feel like him freezing up and not saving Natsu is probably the better option in the long run because I think he is right. I think his son would have easily flipped on him because like he has to thank him now, and that's not the right way to go about it if you really want him to forgive you. Like, don't force a thank you out of him. Let the thank you come naturally. And shoot, who knows? Maybe Natsu does want to forgive him, and he's just having a hard time, coming around to that because he still sees his older brother's death as like a big. And I feel like it's probably what his problem is too, is that he believes his older brother's dead. But it'd be funny to find out his older brother's a villain. I wonder how that would change.
Yeah.
If his older brother's a villain, I don't know. But I'm saying it'd be funny if it was, but it changed the whole narrative around his head. And shoot, maybe it take his wife. Who knows? I mean, it's not like he's gonna build them a house for them to live in. But who's to say that his wife's gonna sit in that house? Maybe she wants to go into bad memory lane and relive burning her son with 350-degree hot water. Who knows? I mean, he's saying that this is what he's gonna do for them, but they didn't say they were gonna. At least Fleema didn't say she's gonna agree with it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I thought it was really sweet when he sent her a Christmas card though.
Are we still on? Are we still on this? Like he has visited Ray in the hospital. He just hasn't knocked on
No,
the
I'm just
door and
saying, like,
walked in.
we had that Christmas episode, and I thought it was really touching the part where they cut over and he sent her a Christmas card. I thought that made it feel like he was making an effort.
Yeah, Yeah, he's making all the effort in the world, but like I said before, I mean, I'm not saying he could probably be making any more. He couldn't be making any more effort. But at the same time, it's like none of the family has shown any like they're so frozen over cold. None of them is thought out, except for Todoroki, except for Shota. Other than that, no one else is really thought out. I mean, Fuyumi is trying to do her best, and she's still having her own issues she's got to get over. I still like to know like what her main issue is too, because it doesn't seem like she holds Toya's death over his head like Natsu does. She hasn't actually said why she doesn't like her father. Like that's the other thing. Like he's made that evident. Like Shota's made that evident. Natsu's made it evident, but Fumi has not, to my knowledge, said why she doesn't like him. Because it isn't a family thing. Because she's trying to fix that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, he's taking extremes, but I feel like that's probably all he has left in his mind. Because like he's like he can just walk up to his son and hug him. I'm pretty sure that would the result in something like him never being put in the hospital probably. Like, I don't know. I feel like he's out of options, and right now like the option of making a house isn't the best, but like he's doing what he believes is right to help them move on. I think right now all he's trying to do is get them to move on, even if he doesn't believe that he should, which isn't healthy. But I mean, hey, he he put himself in a situation. And he's trying to fix it.
Yeah, he's got a long way to go. He's got a longer way with some of the choices he's made, but it's nice to see the character arc working through a little bit.
I guess as we about to move on from this episode, uh, I wanted to bring up that one last thing I wrote down here was that Bakugo has a hero name, but we won't know it until he meets Best Jeanist for next time to tell him. I thought that was interesting, showing that Bakugo is having some growth, and the growth might actually come with the hero name, whatever that is.
The hero name of what?
Bakugo. Bakugo has chosen a hero name, but he's not going to tell anybody until he meets Best Jeanist.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm saying
I
like
thought it,
there's some probably growth there, but we probably won't see any of it come to head until he reveals his hero name.
they do little subtle things with Bakugo here and there. Like you've really got to look for it to see like what he's really made of sometimes. Like when he demanded the tofu recipe on the way out from Todoroki's sister. That was like he's like, "You will give me the tofu recipe. You have to." Well, like he didn't say it politely. He demanded it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll get you the tofu recipe." But that's a big compliment coming from him. It's kind of cute, kind of funny to see that, like, despite him squeezing out of a hug, you know what I mean, and things like that, like you actually see like him revealing himself in little ways here and there.
Yeah, I mean he's growing and he's changing. I mean not fast, but like I said before, I really won't. I mean, if he does do any real growth, I really hope his personality doesn't change. It's kind of like the whole Vegeta thing. I like Vegeta like being arrogant. It just like it makes him different. I don't want him to become like Goku or whatever, or Yamcha or those other characters who are always like. He has his moments too where he's smiling, he's enjoying himself, and those I enjoy. But like it's kind of cool to see those things kind of like leak out when he's just enjoying himself and being himself.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. You see it in other ways too. Like all of a sudden he's got friends and he's not doing much about it, but like they stick by him, and you're like, oh, they saw something, even if
Well, I mean, Eraserhead said this about Bakugo is that he's not popular, but he has an aura that draws people to him.
yeah,
Like, unfortunately to him, like even though that's kind of like what he like if you look back to his childhood days, that's kind of what he wanted, but now he's gotten to the point where now he's having to fight and work for a lot of what he knows he can do. Now, because everybody else is, like they're all on the same playing field, they all got to learn. Some people got more going for them than he does. Even as gifted as he is,
mm,
getting a compliment from Endeavor earlier on.
Yeah.
which he probably wasn't expecting.
Um, another little couple tiny details I saw. One of the lines he says there, he says, I saw you after you caught a thief named Takami. I wondered why they specifically said Takami, a thief named Takami. Do we know anything about Takami in My Hero?
I never heard of the name.
Just for kicks, I looked up. I'm afraid to like. I'm afraid to look too carefully, of course, but Kaigo Takami is Hawks. And he said, I caught after you caught a thief named Takami, which is weird because Kaigo Takami would be Hawks. And I made the connection because the first thing I tried to do was translate Takami to see what it meant, and it's Takami is Japanese for height. I don't know what Kaigo is. Probably should have looked up that too. But hang on. Why would he say that? It just seemed like a really interesting honorable height, I think, because honorifics is Kaigo, translated from English, Japanese to English. So
Well, I mean,
honor at height, I guess, or something like that would be like a really, really, really rough.
there was a manga running side by side with this called My Hero Vigilantes.
Okay.
And in there's a. I'm only saying this because I think maybe Hawks could have been a thief back in the day. Who knows? But
Okay.
uh, Endeavor was a vigilante before he became a hero, and this is revealed in that side story. I never read it, but I know some of the small things. Um, Endeavor is a vigilante in there. I don't know what happens to make him transition from vigilante to hero. Something must happen. Um, but yeah, it's possible that maybe in Endeavor's earlier days when he was a vigilante, like maybe Hawks was like one of the people he caught, and maybe that's why Hawks has a fan. You know, maybe like Endeavor somewhere along the lines, Endeavor changed him. Maybe it's a possibility.
Yeah. There's a Reddit on it and all sorts of stuff. I'm just afraid to read it and get spoilers.
I wouldn't do it
Um,
because apparently, from what I understand, there are like the next arc I think is coming out of this has a lot of Hawks involved in it. From what I understand, I didn't read anything. I just know that I've kept on hearing that something's going on with Hawks in this one.
right. So all I did was like I Googled My Hero Academia Takami, what that was, and I looked at Google image search, and then I realized that it was Hawks had the same name. And then I looked up the translation of Takami too. But like just the idea of caught a thief named Takami and then it was Hawks. I don't know if so it could be a reference that like
Are you
Endeavor
talking
was the
about in
one.
the flashback when Endeavor was dealing with End?
Yeah, when he was dealing with ending, he when the guy was talking to him and he like when he's explaining how he wants to be killed by him, he was talking about the first time he saw Endeavor and he said,
I
I saw
think
you after
I think that
you.
might have nothing to do with Hawks. It might have something to do with a random villain name that he threw in there.
It's just a little weird that like a character so central to this arc would share a name with a random thief, and the fact that he would even say like he didn't have to say a thief named Takami, he could have just said after you caught a thief, but like the writers added name Takami in there and brought it over to the voice actor, and it's just hard to believe that nobody
Yeah, I
knows.
mean, ending saw Endeavor capture a thief called Takami.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he's saying. Takami isn't like linked to anything either.
Well, I'm afraid to look any more deep, but like it seemed like a tiny little subtle slip-in
I
Easter
mean,
egg
it
that was
could mean if
a noticeable
Takami.
detail.
The thing is, this is the villain name was Takami. I don't think that would be Hawks though. I don't really know. Cause as I said before, I'm very wary of Hawks anyway. So I mean, it wouldn't shock me if maybe he used to be a villain. It's a
Yeah,
possibility.
it wouldn't shock me that he used to be a thief either, but it was a little Easter egg that I just caught, and it was really easy to miss, especially with me with
I
my.
just assumed that it was like when they dropped the name, I thought it was just a random villain that they dropped in there for no reason. Actually, at first I thought he was referring to himself, but then I realized he wasn't. Um,
Yeah. So anyway, the that's something I noticed, and I just kind of wanted to earmark that. The other one, and this is just a stupid little funny detail I saw in the series. This is just really tiny and funny, but when they caught Ending and he was stuck in a flame-shaped pillar of ice. Like the pillar of ice looks kind of like a flame, and he's like going on and on about how the flame of his hope has gone out and he's waiting for the cops to come, and he's like literally in a flame-shaped ice ball and talking about how his flame has gone out. I was just like, that's funny. But anyway, that's all I got.
I mean,
What
yeah,
did,
I mean, I think I would. I guess I will focus on that a little bit before we go to Shaman King. I think really because it was like one of those things that they go flashback to like the guy with the glass abilities talking about like the flame is evil, the light that the flame gives off is evil, and all this stuff. How he's going to bring the end. But we see here that from Ending's perspective, the flame is going out. What Endeavor used to be is no longer there anymore. Ending is not realizing that the guy that he wanted to kill him is no longer there. Like, because all he's seeing is a man trying to fix issues or trying to like be a hero in his own way, changing himself because he believed that Endeavor was this way. I guess it's one of the things like the world had perception of Endeavor, but we can see here that perception is wrong. At least for right now, that perception is wrong. Ending
right?
thought that Endeavor was this hardcore, do anything to save anybody, even cross lines. But when he sees that that's not the case, um, like he like I think, and he's just sitting there crying, saying that what I wanted can no longer. Well, he doesn't say this, but I feel like in a really weird way, he's like, I can't get what I want now. Stop, please stop this. Like, why are you doing this? Why kill me, please? He wants Endeavor to cross that line so much, but he sees Endeavor won't, and he's trying to get him to do it, but Endeavor isn't paying attention to him. It's kind of like that whole symbolism that you like with All Might. I mean, like the symbolism here is nowhere near All Might symbolism, but still, it's interesting. I wanted to say that before you walked in. The symbolism is nowhere near All Might symbolism, but at the same time, it's like we see that this is another mark in Endeavor's change where he's trying to change for the better.
Right.
Everything Ending thought he was is no longer true anymore, if it was. And now he's upset that he can't get himself killed. That is a man who's probably gonna commit seppuku, and we're gonna hear about it after the fact.
No, I think he broke. He's broken for the rest of his life now.
I guess with that, I want to bring up the title of the next episode because I think this is important because we see a character in the ending slate that I didn't know was gonna come back because I forgot he was still alive.
I kind of did too. I mean, he's
Kurogiri. I'm like, I forgot they caught him. And then the title is like more heroic than you think or something like that. I forgot the name of the title. You're probably seeing it right now. But I forgot I forgot that he was alive, and then they go out of the way to show President Mike and Azawa in the jail cell with him.
mm-hmm.
Um, I want to bring this last thing up before we move on, but you remember when President Mike dropped that name earlier on before the internship started?
What?
President Mike dropped something up to Aizawa saying that is this about, I forgot the name that he said, but President Mike brings up something from Aizawa's past. Um, it's a 50-50 shot, but we might get some payoff there.
Okay, tell me.
My idea is that maybe Kurogiri, because Kurogiri doesn't show his face, and I've always wondered that about him. He seems to be okay with showing his body, but he's not okay with showing his face. There must be a reason behind it. Maybe he doesn't want people recognizing him. Maybe he's recognizable. Because
Maybe.
there's a still image of Aizawa with a freaked out expression on his face, and so with President Mike. Like they almost know him. And it'd be interesting if that's the case. Because they kept
Yeah.
him alive for this long, only for him to come back. It would seem like pointless if there was no big payoff for that. I could be wrong. I may be maybe pulling out of nowhere, but I just feel like it's kind of interesting that the episode where Kurogiri is in it, the title is the way it is. It just seems like too coincidental. But that's just me.
Yeah, I thought it was super interesting. Back, I was very hooked by that. I like him, and I feel like he's overpowered, and I feel like it was almost like a just they captured him. Such a blow that they lost him.
He might be getting out. I mean, maybe he's gonna be the way that All for One gets out. But who knows? Well, we won't know that until next episode, which we'll be reviewing that. But I guess real quick, we'll talk about a little bit about these Shaman King episodes. I guess we can talk about both at the same time, and I talk about one at a time because it's all the Tao Rin rescue arc in
Mm-hmm.
an odd way. Uh, we come back from last episode where Ren goes back to China to go and take on his father and defeat him. I think there's some translation error 'cause I could have sworn that I think in one translation they said he was going to kill him, but I don't think that was the case. I think he was there to defeat him. Um, we find out as after Ren's come back home that his sister has been taken hostage because has she has defied her father, and her father doesn't believe in friendships and relationships with other people. Funnily enough, it's kind of like what Tao Ren came to the Shaman King tournament with, all that baggage that he left behind. But Ren realizes this, tries to defeat his father. His father is obviously more powerful than him. Uh, and for instance, we cut away from that only to see Yo, the horror guy, and Ryu training. Um, Only for Yo to get a bad feeling that something's happened. And Basan shows up out of nowhere, begging for help. Uh, this doesn't really mean anything, but I'm surprised that Basan could I didn't know spirits could leave their partner that far out. Um, that was news to me. I didn't know they could do that. So that's cool. I guess the spirits don't need the shamans to exist or like manifest. I thought they did, but maybe they didn't.
I thought they did too. It seems like I don't know. It seems like almost like it was convenient. Like they just wanted to be convenient about it.
I guess I mean I kind of tried to move on from it as fast as I could, or but I was still hooked up when I was like, this is so confusing. I mean, I guess at the same time he could be feeding off of Yo's Furakura. I mean, who's to say he wasn't? But he first goes to grab the gang to go and save Ren. They do that. They come right back to Ren's house, or castle, mansion. Uh, they first go in. It's obviously a trap, and we have what Japan likes to do, which is make fun of their own Power Ranger series. Uh, the curse, the curse team, the curse squad. I forgot the six curse squad. I think is what they called. Um, obviously a rip off of Power Rangers. Also, you could
Was
make an argument that they were making fun of the Ginyu Force, but we're not going to get into that
maybe it
because.
was Voltron.
Huh?
Nothing.
Did you just say Ultron?
Voltron.
No, they weren't. They were not Voltron. I
Power
would know. I would know a Voltron ripoff, but we're not going to get into that.
the Power Rangers is a Voltron off.
The Power Rangers came before Voltron.
No, it didn't.
Let me look this up. See Voltron. Looking up this live.
I mean, I was there. I'm 100% confident that Voltron came first. It's one of the times when I can just say I'm old.
Part 1 in 1984, and then the Sentai is what I want to look up.
Voltron was probably in the 80s.
Part 1 was in 1984.
Power Rangers?
No, Voltron.
Yeah. So Voltron came first by a lot.
Sentai Filmworks was filmed in 2008. Voltron is considered like a robot, a super robot anime. Sentai is not. I don't know what they're actually what they consider themselves. Sentai is Taikusatsu, so not really a ripoff of anybody. Maybe they're influenced by each other, but they're definitely not ripping off. It's not ripping off of them. Plus, Power Rangers is more hokey than Voltron. I think people died in that show. In Voltron, I mean, not
Every
Power Rangers.
every 1980s cartoon was pretty hokey, dude.
I don't think Voltron was like. If I remember watching it, I think I did watch it. I don't think like I spent more time laughing at Power Rangers than I did Voltron. I was actually more invested in their story. But moving on.
Okay. Yes, let's move on. The you make a good point about the having the spirits like without the owner. And I mean, we've seen that the spirits here and there, so it's not to think while the controller of the spirit is alive, the spirit itself independently, especially for all sorts of things at this point. The father in this is just like has like an army of miscellaneous spirits, and he's modified them, and some of them some of them aren't even in their original bodies, and he can keep his spirit form alive for years and decades and so forth without having to lose it. And basically this power can do a little bit of everything, and it's just more of a matter of which skills the wielder knows as opposed to the limitations of the actual power. They say they have limitations, but they've said other things that aren't true too. Like he said, all shamans are good at heart, and like we're seeing that there's definitely some shamans that are probably not good at heart and stuff like that. But every shaman they meet seems to have their own flavor of the abilities and the way that their powers manifest, whether it's through undead or through modified bodies or by becoming a shield that you can attach to your arm or whatever. Like everyone to have their own way of having a spirit power.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really hung up on the whole like pass on moving. I thought it was weird. Actually, if I remember correctly, I think I remember it being weird a long time ago too when I first watched it. So it was like, I don't think they ever do it again, to my knowledge. I could be wrong because this is the original adaptation of the story. So everything that happens in this anime now is going to be the creator did it, and not the animators. Uh, and that being said, they encounter the six curses. Ryu and Horo says they're going to take care of them, while Yo while Yo goes to get Ren. Yo manages to get to Ren at the bottom of the mansion. Ren saves June and Ren. Ren decides that he's gonna go and try to defeat his father regardless, even though he failed the first time, which is what led him to being put in jail in the first place. Uh, they bring up how long he's been in that jail cell. Apparently, Ren's only been in there half the time that his older sister's been. So much so that she hasn't had a shower in like 20 days. So that's at least like 2 weeks, maybe more. No, wait, like 2 weeks, that's 7, that's 14, and then 6 more days. So, yeah, pushing 3 weeks. I thought that was interesting. They decided to bring the fact she hadn't had a shower out, but hey, I mean, eh, anime for you. But
She looked pretty hot for someone that hasn't showered in 3 days. Nice, her hair's all on point, no stains on her clothes, nice legs, neat, clean feet. I hope I look that good after 3 days, 3 weeks without a shower.
moving on, Ren and Yo have a moment together, saying Yo saying you're my friend. I don't want to see you die. which just carries on throughout all up until their confrontation with Ren's father, who, as spoiler, has been confirmed. I mean, he's been using an oversoul the entire time to intimidate people. Um, and it's all because of the Tau legacy that he pretty much force fed his son from birth. They also found the tattoo that's on Ren's back was carved into him. I mean, that's kind of what you do with a tattoo, but I mean, uh, it's gotta be something he can do, like maybe get some like fake skin over that thing if he really wants to get rid of it.
Mhm.
There's gotta be a way to get rid of that tattoo. But I guess it's interesting to see the dynamic here of like Ren's family. Uh, like Lisa's father, the guy is like guy is a major penis. But
He looks like Eggman.
nah, I never unsee it.
What?
No, never be able to unsee it.
He absolutely looks like Eggman. That's all there is to it. It was the first thing I thought when I saw him, is he looked like Eggman.
Eggman doesn't have a goatee. He just has a mustache.
It's close enough, my friend.
No, it's not.
It's got that feeling of like sticking out everywhere. He doesn't have a goatee mostly because he has a chin, but like the facial hair is still the same basic shape. Like he has a mustache that's basically functioning in the same splayed out format as that. He just doesn't have a chin. Like look at here. I'll throw a picture in Discord. There's nowhere to have a goatee because he doesn't have enough face for it.
Yet he has a mouth that's visible.
He has like the bottom lip is the end of his face. He doesn't have a chin. There's nowhere for a goatee. Dude, it's 100% Eggman. This
I've
conversation is over.
seen his face. He has a chin. You just can't see it because there's got this coat thing over it. He actually has a chin.
He's Eggman.
No, sorry, I'm just not noticing that apparently we got raided and during that entire like back and forth.
Good. Ask the people in the raid if this guy's Eggman or not.
They don't watch like Elazar and Steve don't watch Shaman King. Well, Steve watches Shaman King, but Steve was gone to sleep. So like that that he won't even answer that question, at least not until tomorrow. But
It does
was
depend on the version of Eggman that you're looking at, but a lot of them he's depicted pretty much without a chin. Like you can, I mean, his face pretty much essentially ends at the like. Here's a picture where you can see underneath his bottom lip, but it basically goes directly into neck at that point. Like what you're seeing below his bottom
there's
lip
enough
is
there
his
where they could put a goatee on him.
No, you don't have a neck goatee. He has no chin in that picture.
You heard of neckbeard?
It's no. There's no chin. Depending on the drawing of Eggman, he doesn't have a chin.
I'm trying to sell me on this. I'm not letting you sell me on it. But moving on.
Look at this one. Look at this picture I'm putting in Discord.
You're not selling me on it.
He doesn't have a chin.
You're
There's a
not
neck
you're
void
not
where his
selling me
chin
on
would
it.
have been. He has a lip that extends to his neck,
You're
and there's
not
no
selling me
chin.
on it. I don't care what you show me. You're not selling me on it. I don't need to be watching my Shaman King and think about Son the Hedgehog character.
Here
That is not what I need to be thinking about when I'm watching Shaman King.
we have a picture of Eggman with his shirt off.
What?
Eggman with his shirt off.
Okay,
And he's
I think we've already reached the end of this podcast at this point. He's losing it. Shoot. What was it? Oh yeah. Rin defeats his father by Rose, and his father has been using an oversoul for a long time apparently. And we see what he really looks like. And like everybody else in the show, he's a skinny old man with a really sprung out mustache. But I guess the overall we can say this that the arc pretty much ends with his father giving him his blessing. Ren everybody goes back to get ready for like the next portion of the tournament, the Shaman King tournament.
Are
Whatever's
you
gonna happen
feeling
there.
through the episodes like it's like super fast right now?
Hmm?
What about like the things explored here? I felt like this was all so like cliche anime. Like we've got the Naruto water guy, and we have like the other samurai and stuff like that. And we're basically watching like the Dragon Ball Super Universal arc with like this free for all where like they're talking about the power of friendship. And like you're like, my strength and my weakness is my friendship. And it's basically Goku fighting Jiren.
Shaman King came before Dragon Ball. Well, this particular arc came before Dragon Ball Super.
But you know what I mean? It's like it's a theme that we've seen before, the power of friendship, like overcoming. It's like in the US, like the power of love. Like as long as you love somebody and you cry a tear and no matter what happened to you is gonna heal them. It's like the oldest trope in like unexpected powers in all of like US stuff. But in this one, like the power of friendship and the power of like depending on your friends and love for you, you know what I mean, is like a big thing. So like when he has like the sort of moral of the fight where he's like, your power is yourself, but my power is my ability to count on my friends. Like it's exactly Goku talking to Jiren when Jiren's like, what keeps you getting up? Like what keeps you? And he's like, trust. My friends trust in me, and I do this for my friends, not just myself. Everything I've done is also for my friends. I'm not just fighting for myself. So you see that in this one too, where like the guy is like, at the beginning he's like, always depending on your friends. You can't depend on anyone; they'll betray you. Like it's the guy is basically being like a not very good version of Jiren.
I wasn't really making any super like I wasn't making any real Dragon Ball Super comparisons when I was watching it.
But is it just like a maybe not necessarily a Dragon Ball Super thing, but is it just a trope in anime in general to have that kind of
I mean, typically, yeah. I mean, Shaman King is from an era where typically this anime and you'll see it as it goes further. Um, Shaman King is entirely based off a tournament arc trope, but they um they do other things. So there's gonna be some adventures that they're gonna go on, if I remember correctly.
mm-hmm.
But Shaman King is a fairly old anime, and the only reason why it's coming back now is because the initial run of it didn't follow the story of the manga that the creator had, and usually it's one of those things where like a lot of people read the manga and the anime is totally different, and it really angers people. So a lot of times they'll come back to try to fix the problem, which is what happened with the anime because Shaman King was a part of the issue a long time ago where they released episodes so close to the manga to the point where there would be no material to animate. So in order to solve that, instead of putting the show in a hiatus, they go off on their own little like storyline, and you wouldn't know it until you read the initial source material that at some point the manga and anime go different directions. It's kind of like the same thing with like Fullmetal Alchemist. Fullmetal Alchemist ended with Ed, and this wasn't the original ending, but Ed originally went back in time and caused like a Holocaust situation, trying to save his brother's life or something like that. Something really dark happened at the end of that. I mean, Fullmetal Alchemist is dark as it is, but something really dark and messed up happened at the end of the initial run, which is why people love Brotherhood that much more because Brotherhood follows the initial story. And this show is old anyway, so I mean, yeah, it's gonna have a lot of tropes in it anyway, and I totally expected that when I first started watching. I was like, this is why I warned you that there's gonna be a lot of you're gonna
I'm going to what?
oh, that's what happened to him. Jeez, okay, never mind. But no, Elazar's confirming that at the initial ending of the original run of the Full Alchemist anime, he
Mm-hmm.
he went to our world I don't know what happened in it, but apparently the initial ending that went was not correct, and he went to our world apparently. Oddly enough, but yeah, the anime is old, so it's gonna be a lot of like tropes that you're gonna see that you've seen elsewhere are gonna be in here, mainly because of how old this show is, which is why you see like why you're so put off by Minasa's like original design is that's also a random anime trope. Uh, Short, geeky, dorky kids is usually how they draw them. And typically another trope is that they usually end up joining the fight at some point, but I don't think he does that here. I could be wrong, but I don't expect to see him pull that trope where he ends up joining the fight. He could, and it'd be weird, but I don't think he will. Again, I'm gonna say that I say I haven't like I don't know if he's gonna do it or not, but it's possible that he could, but I don't expect it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another trope in here was the idea of hesitation being your weakness, that you must do things without ever hesitating, acting like because you're pure and before pretty much before you think and stuff like that. That seemed like it was very tropey too. And in fact, you actually are seeing the exact same theme followed in My Hero Academia of like do things without having to think about them, like thinking is hesitation. Like the advice Endeavor was giving to them, like do things like you're driving, like where you just don't even think about them, you just do them automatically. And you see that exact same thing as like being listed as the weakness in this fight that you're thinking about what you're doing again, just do it, don't hesitate.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of where we get to a point in anime where they have to push the story along, so they kind of have to throw a random trope every now and then to help push their story along. Well, whether that's a bad thing or a good thing is really up to the viewer. Uh, but I think with that, uh, yeah, I mean, look, if it's at the end of the episode, Prince he gets his blessing from his father, and they end up they cut the episode off after like Yo gets confirmation of his next fight, whoever that is, and I expect it's a new character and it's not someone we've seen before. That's my suspicion. I don't really know. Um, because we spent too much time with the characters we already know, so I feel like they're gonna throw in another character. Specifically because it's a character that they've already shown us in the intro that we haven't seen show up. And I don't know if the character's a girl or boy, and I've been trying to figure that out ever since I've been watching the intro, and I can't figure it out. So I'm expecting that the other trope's going to show up eventually, where you don't know the character's gender because of the way they look. Uh, they like to use androgyny a lot. I noticed in anime, and that's something that doesn't change. It can be useful for a character if you're planning to use them later on, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like they use the androgyny too much. But with that, I'm going to say we're going to end this off here. The next podcast is going to be strictly My Hero Academia, and it's going to be reviewing the next episode that I think comes out this weekend. I know they said they wanted a break because of the Olympics, but the Olympics are over now, so things should return. Anime should return to the normal broadcasting slots soon enough. Until then, uh, we'll see you next Monday. See you guys then.
Take care.